A disrespectful gang confrontation explodes into public tension when a quiet black woman is cornered in a parking lot. The gang's arrogance peaks until she says one chilling line that shifts the entire energy. What no one realizes is that their target is far from ordinary, and the city is about to find out why. We don't serve your kind here, so get lost, Granny. The voice sliced through the night like a bottle crashing on concrete. It was followed by a coarse chuckle, boots scraping asphalt, and the sound of someone spitting near her shoes. Aisha Monroe stood quietly beside her sedan, the gas pump still tucked in her hand, as four young white men, all wearing matching leather vests tagged Iron Sons MC, boxed her in at the far edge of a highway gas station. The flickering fluorescent light overhead cast long shadows across the pavement. Aisha, dressed in a simple grey sweater and loose black pants, looked like anyone's grandmother, if you didn't look too closely, but nobody watching the scene from the nearby convenience store dared to intervene. Not the clerk, not the two truckers sipping soda by the door, not the couple who paused their road trip snacks to glance nervously through the glass. Even the camera mounted to the side of the building seemed hesitant, as if reluctant to witness what was about to unfold. The tallest of the bikers, a bald man with tattoos inked from his neck to his knuckles, leaned in. His breath reeked of beer. "You hear me? You don't belong out here, and you definitely don't pump gas on our stop." Aisha didn't move. She clicked the gas cap closed and slid it into place with calm, deliberate hands. The second man, younger, with wild blonde hair and bloodshot eyes, snorted. "She's ignoring us, Grant. Probably one of those freaking civil rights types. Thinks she owns the road now." Aisha turned her head slowly toward him, not out of fear, not even out of curiosity. Just the way one might turn to glance at a strange noise that wasn't worth much attention. That's when the third man snapped. "You deaf or just dumb, lady?" he barked, stepping forward and knocking her handbag off her shoulder with the back of his hand. The leather bag hit the pavement with a thud, spilling a small notebook, a car key fob, and something else. A thin silver badge clipped inside a black wallet. Nobody noticed the badge. "Not yet," Aisha finally spoke, her voice soft and slow. "I was just leaving." She knelt to retrieve her things. Her fingers moved with practiced ease, like a surgeon gathering tools. No tremble, no stutter. The fourth man, a lanky one, chewing. A toothpick stepped behind her and said, "Nah, not so fast, ma'am. You got a little attitude, and that don't fly around here." She stood up, brushed off her pants, and looked at him directly. Then she said it. "You should Google me." It was like a switch flipped. The laughter died. The tallest man blinked. The toothpick dropped. Even the truckers at the door paused mid-sip. Before they could ask anything else, a low rumble echoed from the highway, followed by 3 sleek black SUVs turning into the station. Not screeching, not racing, just pulling in calmly, strategically. One blocked the exit, the second stopped beside Aisha's car, the third parked directly in front of the gang. Men in suits stepped out, earpieces, tactical shoes. One had a clipboard, another held a tablet. "Ma'am," the one nearest her said, "we're 10 minutes early. Shall we proceed?" Aisha didn't look back at the gang. She opened the rear door of the SUV and slid inside. Not a word, not a glance. The clipboard agent turned toward the frozen gang. "Gentlemen, you've just interfered with the travel protocol of a sitting federal advisor to the Joint Congressional Task Force on Domestic Extremism." A second agent tilted his head. "That would be a federal offense, with civil rights enhancements." The bikers didn't speak. But the truckers? One pulled out his phone. The video was already rolling, and by morning, the entire country would know exactly who Aisha Monroe was and why the Iron Sons would regret this night for the rest of their lives. The footage was 47 seconds long. That's all it. It took by 8:13 a.m. It had racked up over 1.4 million views on Twitter, 200,000 on TikTok, and a front-page embed on every major news outlet. The headlines varied slightly depending on where you looked. Racist bikers harass elderly black woman. Regret it within minutes. Gas station showdown. Who is Aisha Monroe? Armed escort for grandma. This viral video holds a bigger story. CNN tried to play it safe. Fox tried to spin it. Reddit dissected every frame. And Black Twitter crowned her. Aisha Monroe became a legend overnight. Not because she spoke, but because she didn't have to. Aisha knows. Chaktum, you should Google me. Chat Iron Sons got schooled. But Aisha, she didn't speak. Not that day. Not when the media called. Not when the mayor's office reached out. Not even when someone from Homeland Security requested a clarification of jurisdictional relevance. She sat in her modest kitchen, where sunlight filtered through gauze curtains and landed in soft golden pools on the checkered floor. The walls were lined with photos of family, birthdays, graduations, military uniforms, and one framed citation that no one ever noticed unless she pointed it out. Which she never did. Her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then rang, then buzzed again. She didn't glance at it. Instead, she calmly sipped tea from a ceramic mug shaped like an owl. Her left hand rested on her lap. Her right hand stirred with precise rhythm. Across the table sat Malik Graves, ex-military federal field tactician and currently one of the few people in government Aisha Monroe trusted. His tie was loosened, and his suit jacket was folded neatly over the chair. "I told you they'd come running," he said with a smirk. "I didn't do it for show," Aisha replied, not lifting her gaze. "I know." Still. He leaned back. "You handled it like a damn masterclass. Calm, cold, federal." Aisha's eyes moved to meet his. "Don't confuse dignity with silence. I was quiet, not calm." Malik studied her. "You ready to talk now?" "No." He exhaled through his nose. "The president's office called. Twice. They want you to do the Sunday interview, full prime time, national stage." She set the spoon down. "They're offering spectacle. I'm not interested." "So what are you interested in?" Her fingers touched the rim of her mug. "I'm interested in who's going to audit the Iron Sons' bank accounts, their land permits, their federal contracts, the Shell LLCs in Nevada, the overseas payments." Malik's expression changed. "You already know about that?" he said. Aisha gave the slightest smile. "I taught you people how to find that kind of thing. You think I don't still know where to look? Outside, eh?" Van marked Channel 9 News crept slowly down the street. Reporters had begun to gather a few houses down, still hesitant to approach the iron fence of the quiet brick home at the edge of Eastwood Park. But they would, eventually. They always did. Back across the city, chaos erupted in the clubhouse of the Iron Sons MC, a rough barroom-style bunker on the edge of an industrial zone. Grant Grizz Larson stood in the center, red-faced, veins bulging on his temple. His fists were clenched, and he was pacing in short, angry strides. "This is a damn setup," he barked. "That video was edited." "It was live footage," someone muttered from the back. Grizz turned on him. "So what? We didn't touch." Her barely bumped her. JD, a wiry man with glasses and tattoos snaking up his arms, stepped forward from behind his laptop. "You knocked her purse off her shoulder, man. That's assault. Even if it wasn't, the badge flashed." "What badge?" "The federal one," JD said. "Wallet opened on the pavement. I paused the video, clear as day." Grizz slammed his fist into the wall. "Fix this." JD didn't move, didn't answer. "Because you don't fix something like this. You survive it. If you're lucky." The gas station where it all started was now barricaded with yellow tape. Not one from a crime scene, just crowd control. The owner, a nervous man named Faisal, who emigrated from Lahore 15 years ago, was cornered by journalists asking if he knew who she was. "I didn't know," he kept saying, voice trembling. "I didn't see anything." But someone had seen everything. His name was Darren Clay, 59, former army mechanic. He'd pulled over to grab a Gatorade and fuel up his rig when the incident unfolded. He'd recorded the entire thing from the front seat of his truck. That morning, he uploaded the uncut video to TikTok and YouTube under the name A Wheels of Justice, 59. His caption, "They messed with the wrong grandma." And now he was on MSNBC telling his side. She didn't flinch. That woman stood like a statue while they circled her. And when she said, "You should Google me," man, I've never seen a group of grown men look like scared school kids so fast. By mid-afternoon, every analyst was scrambling to find out who Aisha Monroe really was. And none of them got close. They guessed FBI, CIA, Secret Service. Some whispered retired judge. Others floated ex-military general. None of them guessed the truth, because Aisha Monroe had once operated within a task force so buried that even its funding code didn't show on national budgets. She trained elite agents on psychological warfare, field manipulation, racial hate group mapping, and cold de-escalation. She was a ghost, and she had retired herself 10 years ago. No farewell ceremony, no memoir, no send-off. She was supposed to vanish until last night. That night had never been about conflict. She was on her way to visit her sister in Atlanta, solo, casual, no escort. She didn't believe in traveling like a target, but fate had other plans. Now the nation was spinning in its seat, wondering who this quiet woman was and why black SUVs answered to her instead of the other way around. Meanwhile, in her kitchen, Malik looked down at his tablet. They just subpoenaed the Iron Sun's local chapter bank records. 2 hours ago, we fast-tracked it. Aisha finally smiled. Not smug, not vengeful, just pleased. "This is bigger than some gas station stunt," she said. "I know," Malik replied. "No one ever harasses just one woman," she said, her voice low. "They practice on dozens, hundreds. The only difference this time?" "You were the wrong one," Malik said. Aisha stood, smoothed her shirt, and walked to the window. Outside, she could see 2 news vans now. A woman reporter was already applying lip gloss before the camera rolled. "I'll give them 1 sentence," Aisha said. Malik tilted his head. "What sentence?" She turned and said it again. "You should Google me." The Iron Sun's MC compound was a squat concrete building surrounded by chain-link fences, rusted bikes, and the stench of old oil. Inside, it smelled like sweat, smoke, and desperation. Grizz slammed the meeting room door behind him, his boots thudding heavily on the floorboards. "They're digging," he growled, his voice hoarse. "Journalists, government, activists. We've got 3 damn reporters circling our land records, and someone's already asking about our 2019 contract with Mason Logistics." The club fell quiet. The only sound came from the hum of JD's laptop fan. He was pale, eyes darting behind thick glasses. "Grizz," he finally said, "the Mason deal was under Hollow Pines Holdings. Remember? That shell company, if they connect. You to the board. They won't." JD didn't move. "They might," he said quietly. Grizz stepped forward, grabbing JD's shirt. "Are you saying I need to be worried?" "I'm saying you already should be." Behind them, Tucker, the youngest of the gang, stood near the wall, staring blankly at the photo of their founding members. "They say she used to run federal ops," he muttered. "One of those ghost units, the kind that clean house." Grizz turned on him. "You scared of a grandma?" "I'm scared of what follows her," Tucker said. The clubhouse used to feel like a fortress. Now it felt like a cage. 3 members had already deleted their socials. 2 more had gone offline entirely. Grizz tried to rally them with speeches, but even he could feel it. The momentum was gone. The club's reputation had always been built on fear, biker intimidation, loud engines, staged confrontations. Now that power was slipping through their fingers. Worse, one of their own, Lyle, had been arrested at a separate protest 2 nights ago, caught on camera waving a Confederate flag while yelling a slur. That video had resurfaced alongside the gas station footage, and suddenly the whole club was being framed as a domestic extremist gang, because they were. And now the world knew. Across town, in the quiet sanctuary of her study, Aisha opened a drawer she hadn't touched in years. She unlocked a small wooden box with an aged brass key. Inside were 3 things: a polished military coin, a folded white handkerchief with blood on the corner, and a flash drive with no label. She plugged it in. The screen lit up with one line: "It's happening again. Need your eyes." Gee, only one person used that signature: Gideon Banks, ex-operative, data ghost, the only man she'd ever trusted to watch her back in the field. They hadn't spoken in 9 years, until now. Aisha exhaled and reached for her phone. She dialed a secure line routed through a VPN tunnel she'd never shut down. It rang once, then twice. Then a voice answered, calm, low, familiar. "Aisha, you sent the message?" "I sent the warning. Who's involved?" "They're calling it coincidence, but you and I know it never is. This gang, they've been quietly funded by contractors linked to the same firms we flagged in 2011, defense groups, surveillance networks, anti-immigrant pacts." Aisha leaned forward. "They're still operational?" "Looks that way." "Then they never really dissolved, just rebranded." "That's my fear." She sat in silence, staring at the sunlight. "Bleeding through her blinds, Gideon," she said. "You remember what we did back then?" "I remember what we covered up." Her hand tightened on the phone. "And now it's back," she whispered. "Worse," he said, "because this time they're public." That night, while the country buzzed with theories and commentaries, Aisha took a different route. She didn't accept interview requests. She didn't issue a statement. She walked alone into a local community center in the West Side district, the kind with folding chairs, fluorescent lights, and broken AC. People had already gathered. Over 60 of them, all black, all local. Many had never seen her in person. They expected cameras, security, applause. What they got was silence. Aisha stood in front of them, wearing a plain blue coat and a scarf tied tight against the wind. And then she spoke. "I'm not here to be a symbol," she said. "I'm not here to go viral. I'm here because power is moving again. And if we don't stand steady, it'll crush more than reputations. It'll crush our future." The room went quiet. "I didn't pick that fight," she continued, "but I'm damn sure ready to end it." A hand rose in the crowd. A teenager, nervous. "Are you FBI or something?" Aisha gave a soft smile. "No, but I trained the people who train the ones you're thinking of." Gasps, murmurs. Another woman stood. "What do you want from us?" "Not your praise. Your presence," Aisha said. "We need to organize, document, shine light, because they'll lie, twist, erase. But if we're louder, if we're smarter, we win." By the end of the night, every chair was filled. More were brought in. Someone live-streamed the event. Over 200,000 watched it within 12 hours. Grizz sat in the dark with the clubhouse TV on mute. Watching the stream, there she was, calm, poised, unshaken. "They worship her," he muttered. Beside him, JD crossed his arms. "They should." Grizz didn't respond, but deep down, he knew the tide had turned, and the past he'd buried was clawing its way back up. JD tapped away at his laptop in the darkest corner of the Iron Sun's clubhouse, sweat dotting his forehead despite the chill in the air. The room smelled like motor oil and cheap whiskey, but the silence felt heavier than the stale air. "Wipe everything," Grizz ordered from behind him. "Emails, chat logs, GPS data. I want every burner erased and every connection to Mason. Gone before daylight." JD didn't argue. He knew this wasn't paranoia anymore. This was cleanup, the kind that happened before indictments landed. "They're watching now," JD muttered. Metadata's already been scraped. You wait too long and even your silence screams. Grizz leaned against the wall, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot. Then make it scream something else. JD sighed, fingers moving faster. What about the old files, the warehouse logs, the photos from the Arizona run? Grizz's tone dropped to a growl. Burn them. JD hesitated. You sure? Some of those... I said burn them. JD hit delete, but too late. A backup sync had already triggered. Somewhere off-site, on a third-party mirror server they'd forgotten about years ago, a full image of the data stack copied itself into digital permanence. Across town, in a basement beneath a co-op cafe, a notification blinked on a screen. New data received. Iron Sons 2014-2023 tagged archive. Gideon Banks looked up from his screen, his mouth twisting into a grim smile. Well, he said, looks like they just handed us the rope. Meanwhile, Aisha stepped out of her car in an unfamiliar part of town. Not run down, not elite, just forgotten. Rows of weathered duplexes stood like tired soldiers, each one watching but saying nothing. She approached the fourth door on the left. It opened before she knocked. 10 years, and not even a call, said the man behind it. Lennox Wade. Ex-operative, former friend, current ghost of a betrayal she hadn't fully forgiven. 10 years ago you disappeared, he said. Didn't think I'd see your face again. I didn't plan to, Aisha said. But then someone sent a message from your server. Lennox stepped aside. Then I suppose we've got catching up to do. The inside of his apartment was bare. One couch, a coffee table, and stacks of books about surveillance theory, war psychology, and counterinsurgency. A single Polaroid sat on the wall. A younger Aisha and Lennox, laughing, unarmed, free. What do you want? Lennox asked, voice sharper now. I want the names of the people you never turned in, she said. The ones you promised me you'd track. The ones who funded your last op before you ghosted. Lennox scoffed. You think I kept that list? I think you memorized it. He didn't answer. Aisha stepped closer. They're not just donors anymore, Lennox. They're funders, recruiters, and they've rebranded. This isn't just about Baker intimidation anymore. This is a network. Lennox walked over to a locked drawer, pulled out a metal case, and flipped it open. Inside, one battered notepad. He tossed it onto the table. Names, places, transactions, he said. If I give you this, we're even. Aisha's eyes narrowed. You think this is a favor? No, he said. I think it's the last thing I'll ever give you. She took the notebook, didn't thank him, didn't promise protection, just turned and walked away. That night, Grizz was pacing again. What do you mean it got backed up? JD's face was pale under the flickering lights. One of the archive. Servers auto-synced. I missed the protocol. I didn't even realize we were still tethered to the old Arizona cloud. Grizz grabbed a beer bottle and hurled it at the wall. It shattered, spraying glass over a photo of their first ride. Find it, kill it, now! JD shook his head. We can't. That server's not ours anymore. It was bought up during a merger last year. It's public now. Somewhere. Whoever owns it owns us. Grizz's rage turned quiet. Then we find them, we bury them, but he already knew. If the data was in Gideon's hands, the clock had started, and he'd run out of time 10 years ago. At 2:14 a.m., Aisha sat in her study, reading the notepad by lamplight. Each name had a date, a payment amount and a location, rural rallies, abandoned compounds, police trainings, and at the bottom, one line scribbled in Lennox's old scrawl, "Watch the judges, they're not neutral." She closed the notebook. Slowly, then picked up the phone. Malik, prep a list of every federal case involving the Iron Sons or their affiliates, and cross-reference it with judges who've received campaign funding from Hollow Pines Holdings. Malik groaned. It's 2 in the morning. Aisha's voice was ice. Then you're already late. The federal courthouse on 9th and Rosedale was built like a fortress, bland limestone columns, bulletproof glass, and a solemn American flag flapping hard in the early morning wind. Its coldness had a purpose. This was not a building that invited. In comfort, it was built to intimidate, and today it would be forced to listen. Aisha Monroe walked through the security checkpoint without a single beep. The guards didn't ask for ID. They just nodded, almost instinctively, as if her presence short-circuited their procedures. There was something about her, an energy that made men move out of the way without knowing why. Upstairs, courtroom 2B, buzzed quietly with lawyers and clerks, unaware that history was about to knock. Malik Graves followed 3 steps behind, his tablet already syncing with 3 open databases. He was cross-referencing case dismissals, unfiled reports, and one name in particular, Judge Malcolm Rowe, the man who'd quietly thrown out a 2020 federal arms trafficking case involving Iron Sons lieutenants. "Rowe's docket is sealed," Malik whispered. "But we found transfers, $75,000 from a Nevada-based pack traceable to Hollow Pines." Aisha didn't flinch. "Then he's ours." They entered the gallery as a hearing was beginning, a minor land dispute between the city and a local trucking company. Judge Rowe sat on the bench, silver-haired, polished, and barely interested. His reputation was immaculate. Until now, he didn't notice Aisha at first, but everyone else did. The gallery shifted. Whispers spread. Phones came out, and then Rowe's eyes locked on hers. He froze, just for a second, then cleared his throat and tried to reassert control. "We'll begin with, Your Honor," Aisha said, rising from the back. "Request to address the bench on a matter of urgent legal concern." Rowe blinked. "You are—" She walked forward calmly, pulling no badge, showing no ID, but her presence said enough. "Monroe, Aisha Monroe, advisor to the Federal Task Committee on Extremism, Proliferation, and Cross-State Hate Network Activity." The courtroom went still. Even the stenographer paused, hands mid-air. Rowe leaned back, his voice faltering. "Ms. Monroe, this is an open hearing unrelated to—" "Exactly," she said, "which is why it's concerning that your court has handled over 9 separate cases involving a designated hate group, with 0 convictions, despite ample evidence in the record." Rowe shifted in his seat. "This is highly irregular. So is funding your campaign with PAC money that originated in a weapons deal 3 states away." Gasps. She wasn't yelling. She didn't need to. Each word landed like a slow hammer drop. Purposeful. Inevitable. Rowe's voice dropped. "This is not the forum for this discussion." Aisha took one slow step closer. "Then tell me, Your Honor, what is the right forum to expose the sale of justice?" No one breathed. Rowe swallowed hard. "This is a federal building. You have no jurisdiction to interrogate a judge." Malik stepped forward now, voice sharp. "Not an interrogation, sir. Just a warning. We're watching." He handed a file to the clerk, sealed, marked with the insignia of the Federal Inspector General's office. "Pending internal review," Malik added. "Effective immediately." The judge's gavel hung in the air, then lowered slowly. Court adjourned, but the war had just begun. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Aisha, is this about the Iron Sons? Are you accusing sitting judges of protecting hate groups? Do you believe this is systemic?" She raised one hand. "I believe rot grows quiet," she said, "until someone names it out loud." Then she left. No press conference, no podium. Just that sentence, and the fire it lit. By noon, the Department of Justice released a statement confirming a preliminary review of multiple federal cases was now underway. That afternoon, 5 federal judges requested early retirement, and by evening the Hollow Pines pack went dark. Inside the Iron Sons bunker, panic cracked through the walls. JD sat frozen, reading the headlines aloud. She walked into a courthouse and dropped heat on a judge in real time, on camera. Tucker paced the floor. They're digging up everything now, even cases we thought were gone. That old Arizona stuff, the trial with Marcus, gone. Public, JD said. It's trending. Grizz sat in silence, staring at nothing. One by one, the bricks of their protection were falling. She's not just trying to destroy us, he muttered. She's trying to unmake the whole damn web. JD looked at him. Then what do we do? Grizz's eyes darkened. We remind the world why people used to fear us. Later that night, Aisha returned to her home to find a note tucked inside her gate. No signature, no writing, just a photo. It was an image of her standing at the courthouse steps that morning, circled in red. And underneath, 2 words scratched in. Jagged ink, step back. She stared at it for a long time, then calmly lit a match and watched it burn. The bottle shattered just after 3:02 a.m. Glass burst against the wrought iron gate, fire blooming like a devil's flower against the dark. The explosion wasn't big enough to kill, but it wasn't meant to. It was a message, a warning, a coward's declaration. Isha Monroe stood by her window, backlit by the hallway lamp, arms folded as the flames hissed and curled upward. The private security feed on her tablet displayed it all in crisp infrared. The SUV that tossed it didn't have plates, but the motion tracking cameras snagged the make, model and heat signature of the driver's wrist tattoo, a flaming wheel, the Iron Sun's insignia. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. Instead, she tapped a single command into her tablet. Across the city, a silent protocol activated. Cell towers pinged. A restricted database lit up. A list of dormant assets unlocked. Aisha didn't believe in revenge. She believed in receipts. By 8 a.m., a forensic team was combing the blast site. They found charred glass, accelerant traces, tire tracks and fibers from a glove caught on the edge of her mailbox. Malik showed up 20 minutes later, jaw clenched, hair still damp from a rushed shower. "You all right?" he asked. Aisha nodded. "They're testing the perimeter. Looks like they want you scared. They'll settle for distracted. I'm neither." Malik passed her a folder. Inside were mugshots, arrest reports, and a short transcript. "Meet Clayton Reeves," he said. "Former Iron Sun's enforcer. Got out 2 years ago. Disappeared, changed his name, got a job as a janitor at a middle school in South Point. And now, he came forward this morning. Says he's ready to talk." "Why now?" "Says your name reminded him of someone he let down." Aisha closed the folder, set the meeting. South Point was quiet this time of year, a suburban district where nothing ever happened and no one ever asked questions. The school was old but clean, its paint fading gracefully into beige. Clayton Reeves waited by the empty bleachers, hood up, arms folded. He stood when Aisha approached. "I didn't think you'd come in person," he said. "I don't send proxies for truth," she replied. He looked older than his file, more tired than aged. His knuckles still bore faded scars. A tremor flickered through his fingers. "I left because of her," he said. "The girl they jumped in Phoenix, 2017, black kid, barely 16, didn't even fight back." Aisha didn't respond. "They laughed after," Clayton said. "Took photos, bragged, called it training." His voice cracked. "She never got justice." "She still could," Aisha said. "If you're willing to go on record." "I am," he said, "but there's more, there's video. Grizz had a stash, thumb drives locked in his office, code word Liberty Pile. I was the one who burned backups, but I think one copy survived." "Where?" "Safe house in Tall Pines. Abandoned trailer, north of the gravel yard. Nobody's touched it in years." Aisha's mind calculated fast. She didn't nod, didn't blink. "Would you testify?" Clayton looked up. "If it means they can't do it again, yes." She extended a hand. He shook it, then walked away, back toward the life he was trying to rebuild. That night, Aisha met Gideon Banks at a rooftop safe zone above a silent parking garage. The stars blinked overhead like watchful eyes. She briefed. Him quickly. The safe house, the drives, the testimony. We get that footage, we bury them, Gideon said. They'll try to reach it first. I'll get a team. No, Aisha said. I'll go. Gideon raised an eyebrow. You planning on going full ghost again? I never stopped. She turned to leave. Aisha, Gideon said softly. You sure about this? You're walking? Straight into heat. Her voice was calm. I'm fireproof. Back at the Iron Suns compound, the mood had shifted. Grizz stood in front of a map, red X's drawn across key zones, witnesses, allies, former members. She's bleeding us slow, he growled. Not with fists, with facts. He pointed at Clayton Reeves's mugshot. He talks, we fall. Tucker whispered, you want him silenced. Grizz didn't answer, but his silence said everything. At midnight, Aisha drove alone through the gravel roads of tall pines, the moon her only companion. Her headlights cut through fog like twin blades. She wore no badge, no weapon, just a backpack with gloves, tools, and a USB decryptor. The trailer stood as described, sagging, silent, forgotten, but she didn't walk in blind. Her left contact lens was transmitting a live feed, and 3 surveillance drones circled overhead, invisible to the naked eye. She stepped inside and saw them. The drives, 4 of them, tucked in a tin lunchbox behind a false panel, each labeled with dates. One marked Phoenix Girl, March 2017. Aisha lifted it gently, heart steady, then froze, a noise behind her, footsteps. She turned, slow and deliberate. But no one was there, only a fresh boot print in the dirt. She exhaled once, then left, never breaking stride. By the time she reached her car, a dark SUV rolled past the road's edge. The Iron Suns were hunting, and now, so was she. The lights were low. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of cooling fans inside the secure operations center. Aisha sat at the head of a long steel table, the tin lunchbox open in front of her. 4 USB drives lay on a cloth napkin like sacred relics, proof of sins no one had wanted to see. Malik inserted the first drive. The screen flickered, then it began. A shaky video, time-stamped March 14th, 2017, recorded on a cheap camcorder. The frame caught 6 men in leather jackets standing in a dirt lot. In the middle was a girl. Young, black, handcuffed, bruised. Her head was down. A voice laughed off screen. You want to earn your patch, boy? Then swing. A young man stepped forward hesitantly, then hit her. She fell. The men cheered. Another voice, clear, firm, said, Make it look like a robbery. Dump her near the west fence. The screen blurred. Then cut. Malik hit pause. His jaw was clenched so tight it looked like it hurt. Jesus, he whispered. Aisha sat stone still. Her hands didn't tremble. She'd seen worse. But seeing it again always added weight to the soul. She nodded once. Next. He inserted the second drive. This one showed a stash room, AR-15s stacked in crates, a whiteboard listing drop-off times, and a man in uniform laughing with Grizz over a bottle of beer. That's Officer Jace Keller, Malik said. Still, active in the East Division. That's a city cop on a weapons run. Aisha scribbled down timestamps, faces, license plates. Build a case file, she said. Every name, every frame. I want this airtight. Malik hesitated. Do we leak it now? No. We give it to the DOJ. Let them bury themselves trying to explain it away. But someone else will leak it, Aisha said. How? Do you know? She looked at the screen, now frozen on the laughing officer. Because the country's already watching, and someone out there is just waiting for a match to drop. Back at the Iron Suns compound, JD stormed into the war room. They have the drives, he said. I traced a signal ping from Tall Pines 3 hours ago. Someone was transmitting off a ghost network. It wasn't one of ours. Grizz didn't yell. He just sat there, eyes cold, breathing shallow. You sure it's them? JD nodded. They know about Phoenix, about the warehouse guns, even the Keller Run. Grizz picked up a photo from the wall, an old snapshot of the gang during a 4th of July BBQ. Laughter, beers, no guilt. He crushed it in one hand. This was never supposed to come back, he muttered. Tucker paced nearby. What happens if they release it? Grizz didn't answer right away. Then finally, then we stop being feared and start being hunted. By morning, the world had changed, not because Aisha had released the footage, but because someone else had. The videos went viral on an anonymous Twitter account tagged a Justice Drive. It linked to an encrypted server with 9 GB of raw footage, evidence and frame-by-frame breakdowns. The Phoenix girl, the warehouse stash, the cop laughing with Grizz. It was all there. Social media erupted. Hashtags surged. Phoenix Justice, as Iron Sons exposed. Justice Drive. This is America, news anchors cried on live television. The girl from Phoenix, her name was Nia Cole, posted a trembling video thanking whoever finally made them pay. And the Department of Justice? They couldn't hide anymore. They issued an emergency memo by noon. All law enforcement agencies are to stand down and cooperate fully with the new federal task force on hate-based organized crime. Immediate audits of city departments and judicial offices are ordered. Malik looked at the screen, stunned. That was fast. Aisha simply replied, "No, that was long overdue." Meanwhile, at a press conference outside City Hall, reporters screamed questions at the mayor, at the police chief, at anyone who would stop long enough to answer. One voice cut through the noise. "Where's Aisha Monroe?" The mayor blinked. Ms. Monroe is not affiliated with this administration. But everyone knew better now. She didn't need an office. She was the office. At sunset, Aisha stood on a quiet rooftop, alone. No camera crews, no handlers, just her. The wind tugged at her coat as the city burned below, not in fire, but in awakening. The illusion was dead, and the reckoning had begun. Malik joined her moments later. "They're trying to find the leaker," he said. "Let them," Aisha replied. "You think it was Gideon?" "Maybe." "Clayton?" "Possibly." Could we been anyone at this point? Aisha's voice was calm. "That's the point." She turned to Malik. "When truth becomes a flood, it doesn't matter who opens the faucet." Malik looked out at the skyline. "You think they'll strike back?" "They already did," Aisha said. "And they failed." Her phone buzzed once. A single text from an unknown number. Next target, the bank. She pocketed it without a word. And smiled. The bank sat on the corner of Ashland and Fifth, an unassuming brick building with green awnings and a name that blended into the skyline. Pioneer Regional Credit Union. To most, it looked like a neighborhood financial institution, the kind where you'd open your first checking account or get a small loan for a truck. But Aisha knew better. From the moment she stepped inside, she could feel it. The carpet was too clean. The manager's smile too rehearsed. The security camera lights were blinking, but not recording. Malik stood beside her, wearing a grey jacket and a courier badge. His tablet synced quietly with a hidden relay in his bag, scanning Wi-Fi signals and internal routing protocols. "They're running 2 networks," he whispered. "One customer-facing, one dark. Hidden database, likely in the back office. Can't breach it from here." Aisha stepped up to the counter. The teller was young, nervous, blonde hair, perfect teeth. "Hi there, how can I help you today?" she asked sweetly. Aisha slid a blank deposit slip across the counter. It read only 4 words: Hollow Pines Payroll Division. The girl's smile vanished. Her hand trembled. "Let me get the manager," she whispered. Aisha didn't respond. Just waited. Moments later, a tall man with thin-rimmed glasses appeared. His name tag read Brent Calder, branch supervisor. He looked Aisha over like a man trying to calculate the shape of his own disaster. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Been laundering federal contractor money into private pension accounts under ghost employee IDs, Aisha said softly. I want the raw logs, the shell account names, and the backdoor code. Calder tried to play dumb. I don't know what you're talking. Aisha slid a photo across the counter. It was a screenshot from the leaked footage. Grizz handing a bag of cash to a man in a Pioneer polo shirt, time-stamped, geo-tagged, facial recognition verified. Brent's mouth snapped shut. You're already in the system, she said. You can either cooperate and keep your pension, or we can add your name to the evening news. He stood there frozen, then slowly reached into his pocket, pulled out a small key fob, and passed it under the scanner by the employee gate. This way, he said, voice cracking. In the back office, Malik's screen lit up with line after line of transaction data. Sweet Jesus, he muttered. They were moving money through police pension accounts. Aisha's brow tightened. How many officers? Hundreds, he said. Possibly. Thousands. They've been padding payrolls with ghost names, paying kickbacks through dummy pension surges. Looks like this goes up to the State Board of Law Enforcement Funding. Aisha didn't look surprised. Of course it does. She turned to Calder. Who else knows? He hesitated. Just the regional head, and the guy who installed the access system. I swear, I just run the desk. Malik handed him a burner phone. Call this number. Tell them the account's been breached. They'll try to clean it, and we'll be watching. Calder stared at them. You're not FBI, are you? No, Aisha said. We answer to truth, not policy. Across town, Grizz was unraveling. The footage had gutted their protection. The bank leak would destroy their funding. And now Clayton Reeves, the one who had walked away, had agreed to testify. Grizz stared at his phone, sweat glistening on his bald head. Where is he? JD hesitated. Under federal hold. Safe house on Duval Street. He's guarded. Grizz's voice dropped to a growl. Then we hit him before he gets to the stand. Tucker flinched. That's a federal target. I don't care. Grizz snarled. He turned on us. He burns. That night, Aisha received a coded alert, an intercepted message from gang comms, Duval location. Edro 300 hours. Execute. She looked at Malik. They're going after Clayton. We won't make it in time, Malik said. It's across the city. Then we don't go, Aisha said. She picked up her tablet, tapped a secure number, and waited. When the call connected, she said only 3 words. Code Black Echo. Then she hung up. At 3:00 a.m., a black van pulled up to a quiet cul-de-sac. Inside were 3 men in biker jackets, armed, angry, desperate. They approached the small rental home with military precision. No lights on, no movement. They kicked the door in, empty, silent, too silent. Then the voice came, "You're trespassing on federal property. Drop your weapons." Red laser dots appeared on all 3 of them. 6 agents emerged from behind hedges, SUVs, and street corners. Guns raised, faces expressionless. One biker ran, didn't get far. A drone dropped a tear gas canister 2 feet from his heels. By 3:11 a.m., all 3 were cuffed, hooded, and being driven to a classified holding site. Clayton. He was never there. He was already en route to Washington, D.C., safe, secure, ready to speak. At sunrise, Aisha stood on her porch, watching the city come alive beneath a blood-orange sky. She sipped her tea calmly as her phone vibrated. Text from Clayton. "Tell her thank you for giving me my voice back." Aisha smiled faintly, not because she was proud, but because in a world this broken, restoring one voice at a time was how revolutions began. At 4:44 a.m., the Hollow Pines server farm was still and silent. Dozens of racks, blinking quietly behind frosted glass, held decades of corruption in digital form. Tax filings, bribe records, shell company blueprints, all buried beneath layers of encryption until today. Aisha and Gideon sat inside a secure, Bunker 3 blocks away, screens glowing in the dark. You sure you want to do this now? Gideon asked. Aisha didn't blink. If we wait, they'll bury it. He cracked his knuckles and pulled up the access terminal. Then let's bury them instead. Malik's voice buzzed in through comms. He was stationed at the state courthouse, disguised as a legal aid, running an extraction protocol on the governor's campaign records. Update, he said. We've got 3 donations traced from Hollow Pines to the governor's re-election fund. Same day, a new police grant was issued. Want me to pull the footage from the Capitol lot? Do it, Aisha said, and archive the timestamps. If they move against us, we move on them. Gideon's fingers danced across the keys. Firewalls up, but soft on the back end. This was built for hiding money, not resisting attack. Aisha watched the code flow like water. Pull everything, she said. We publish it all. Meanwhile, Grizz was losing control. The leak had reached his last lifeline, the financial shell that made the Iron Suns untouchable. Now it was falling. He stormed through the clubhouse like a wounded animal, screaming into phones, flipping tables, barking orders no one wanted to follow. Where's the backup? He shouted. There is no backup, JD said quietly. Grizz spun around. You were supposed to safeguard the network. I did. But they didn't come through the front door, JD replied. They came through the pensions, the banking trails. They cracked the things we forgot we built. Grizz's hands trembled. This can't be how it ends. But everyone in the room knew it already had. Back in the ops bunker, the servers buckled one by one. Gideon grinned. That's the offshore account suite. 5 Cayman companies just got exposed. Aisha remained stone-faced. Bring up the Phoenix Fund, she said. He clicked. Dozens of payments flashed across the screen. Unmarked consulting fees routed through third-party legal trusts. They had names now. One of them, Malcolm Rowe, federal judge. Another, Cynthia Durham, deputy police commissioner. Aisha nodded. They all fall together. Malik's voice came through the comm again. We've got another issue. What is it? One of our agents turned. The leak at the courthouse. Someone warned the governor. Aisha narrowed her eyes. Who? I don't know yet, but he just cancelled a press event. I think they're prepping damage control. Gideon cursed under his breath. We push. Faster, Aisha said, before they can spin it. 3 hours later, a massive drop hit the public. An anonymous server link flooded Twitter and Reddit. The root, how a private company owned your courts, your police, and your vote. The PDF was 417 pages long. It listed judges, 41 officers, 16 state-level politicians. Governor, all traced back to Hollow Pines. News networks exploded. CNN went live for 9 straight hours. NPR called it the biggest corruption leak of the decade. Fox tried to deflect, then gave up. The governor cancelled all public appearances. The DOJ issued a Level 3 emergency inquiry, and the people, they marched. From Phoenix to D.C., protests erupted with signs reading, "We see you now." The Pines have fallen. Where was justice before Aisha? But not everyone took it lying down. That night, a black SUV pulled up 2 blocks from Aisha's house. Inside sat a man in a crisp suit with a snake tattoo on his neck. He opened a laptop, connected to a military-grade jammer, and began scanning. For Aisha's private network signature, a direct cyberstrike, a last act of desperation. Back inside, Aisha's firewall lit up. Unauthorized beacon detected, Gideon said. Military-level stuff. Malik's voice hit next. You're under attack. I know, Aisha said, calmly standing. Then she walked to the wall panel, opened a hidden drawer, and flipped a switch labeled EMP counter, civilian range. She waited 5 seconds, then pressed it. A low hum vibrated through the house. Outside, the SUV's systems blinked, then died. Screens went black, engine stalled. Inside, the man screamed and pounded the dash as sparks danced across the dashboard. By the time the blackout faded, 2 tactical agents in civilian clothes were already at the car, dragging the man out. Aisha watched from the window, didn't flinch, didn't blink, just whispered, "We don't scare easy." At sunrise, Malik met her at the bunker with coffee and a flash drive. He handed it to her with a tight jaw. "Final file from the governor's office." She plugged it in. It was a voicemail, short, grainy. The governor's voice. "Get rid of her. I don't care how. Just make it clean." Aisha sat back, a slow smile on her face. "Gotcha," she said, and hit forward to DOJ. The sun had barely risen when the voicemail made headlines. "Get rid of her. I don't care how. Just make it clean." Those 9 words, spoken in the governor's weary drawl, were now etched into the national psyche. CNN called it a soft kill order. The Washington Post labeled it a political implosion. And MSNBC simply flashed the quote on a loop under a black screen with red letters, "The Order." Across the country, streets filled with protesters, courthouses were surrounded, and for the first time in decades, a sitting state governor was placed under emergency federal investigation for conspiracy to commit murder. But Aisha didn't celebrate. Because she knew what was coming next. Inside the bunker, Malik paced. He hadn't slept, his shirt was wrinkled, his hands clenched around a coffee cup like it was holding him upright. "They're going to retaliate," he said, "not with legal tricks, with bodies." "They already tried," Aisha replied. "They just failed." Gideon was staring at the encrypted witness roster on the screen, except something was wrong. "Where's Sophia Reed?" he asked. "She's gone." Malik froze. "She's under martial protection. Case 11B. "Not anymore," Gideon said. "Someone pulled her out of rotation last night. Logged as a misfiled jurisdictional shift, which is code for sabotage," Aisha said coldly. She leaned forward. "Run the metadata on the request. Who authorized the extraction?" Gideon typed fast, then stopped. His face fell. "It came from inside, from our office." Malik stepped forward. "Who?" Gideon turned the screen. Malik's name was listed. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible. I never—" "Someone spoofed your access," Aisha said, "and they knew your clearance level. That narrows it to 3 people. Malik's jaw tightened. "You think it's Davis?" Aisha's silence said enough. "Agent." Marcus Davis had been with them since the start. He was smart, clean-cut, loyal, or so they thought. But now, Aisha's tablet displayed something disturbing. 6 private logins from Davis's ID, all after hours, all coinciding with information leaks that preceded failed arrests. Worse, he had been on the rotation team that managed Sophia's last secure location. Gideon cursed under his breath. "If she's exposed—" "We find her before they do," Aisha said. "And Davis, we don't confront him, not yet. We trap him." Meanwhile, inside a private hangar 2 states away, Sophia Reed waited in a van, confused and cold. "They said this was part of her protection shift," she said quietly to the driver. "Why isn't there an escort?" The driver didn't answer. She glanced at the rearview mirror. That's when she realized no badge, no ID, no uniform. Just a man in sunglasses and a patched wrist. Iron Suns, Inc. Her breath caught, and then the van door slammed shut. Back at the bunker, Aisha connected to an old satellite trace system. "I had Gideon pre-tag Sophia's GPS bracelet in case something like this happened," she said. "Is it active?" Malik asked. Aisha zoomed in. The dot blinked on a private airfield in Louisiana. Alive, but moving. She tapped a button. "Activate fallback." At the hangar, 2 men hauled Sophia from the van. One of them checked his phone, nodding to the other. "Take her in. Wait for orders." But they didn't get far. A dull thud echoed from the hangar. Roof. Then another. The bikers froze. Something dropped from the rafters. Small, sleek, blinking blue. Flashbang, boom, chaos. 3 figures in black swept in from the side. Special unit. No markings. No warnings. One subdued the man holding Safia. The other 2 secured the perimeter. Within 40 seconds, she was in the back of a second vehicle, racing away from the airstrip, safe again. Back in the bunker, Davis entered the control room. "You paged me?" he said. Aisha didn't look up. She was reviewing camera logs from the airfield takedown. "Yes," she said. "I needed to update you on the witness transfer. The leak we caught was real." Davis frowned. That's good. So we're back on track?" Gideon stepped in holding a file. "We're also reviewing all internal access logs. You know, just in case." Davis froze. His left hand twitched. "Of course." Malik stared at him. "Funny thing. All the fake requests came from a machine, in your name. But that machine was off, physically disconnected." Davis said nothing. Aisha finally stood and walked toward him. "You broke formation," she said. "You sabotaged our firewall. You nearly got a woman killed." He backed up. "It wasn't personal." "No," she said coldly. "It was cowardly." Two agents entered from behind. "Marcus Davis," one said. "You're under arrest for obstruction, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment of a federal witness." He didn't resist, because he knew it was over. After the arrest, Aisha stepped outside into the late afternoon light. Her face was unreadable. Malik stood beside her. "You all right?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, but I'm focused." They looked out at the street below. People still marching, chanting, holding signs with her face, her quote, her name. "You've started something." Malik said. "No," Aisha replied. "We've uncovered something." Her phone buzzed. A message from Clayton Reeves. "I'm ready. Tell me when to testify." She smiled. "Tomorrow. Federal Courthouse, Washington, D.C. Day 1 of the United States versus Hollow Pines and associated affiliates." The courtroom was full before the doors officially opened. Every seat, every bench, every wall space occupied. Press badges gleamed under harsh lights. Activists scribbled notes. Survivors sat stiff, hands folded. And at the center of it all, under oath, stood a man who once wore the patch of the Iron Sons and now carried the burden of their truth. Clayton Reeves. His suit was plain. No tie, a fresh haircut, no defense attorney. Just courage, visible and raw, gripping the edges of the witness stand. Aisha sat in the third row. She said nothing, did nothing, but Clayton looked at her once and nodded. Then he began. "My name is Clayton Reeves. I was recruited into the Iron Sons Motorcycle Club in 2013. At first, it was about belonging, brotherhood, but that wasn't what they really were. What they really did." He glanced at the judge. "I witnessed and in some cases participated in coordinated acts of violence against black citizens across 3 states. We didn't patrol, we hunted. We didn't protect, we punished." Murmurs spread across the room. The judge banged the gavel. "Order," Clayton continued. "I was there in Phoenix 2017. We jumped a teenage girl named Nia Cole. I didn't throw a punch, but I stood there, and I let it happen." Aisha closed her eyes. "Not in grief. In respect. Healing requires truth," she'd once said, "and truth requires pain." Clayton's voice tightened. "Afterwards, we burned the video. Or so we thought. Turns out, one copy was archived under something called Liberty Pile. That's where the rest was. Proof of gun trafficking, collusion with law enforcement, and payments from Hollow Pines Holdings routed through a fake company in Reno." The prosecutor approached. "Did anyone ever warn you not to testify?" "Yes." "Who?" He turned slightly. "Grizz. Real name. Grant Larson. He sent 3 men to silence me. They failed." "Why come forward now?" Clayton swallowed hard. "Because I saw what they did to Ms. Monroe, and I realized if she wasn't backing down, then I had no excuse left." Gasps rippled. Aisha didn't blink. The defense attorney stood now. Middle-aged, slick hair. "Tanzut, you say you're coming clean, Mr. Reeves, but isn't it true that you're only doing this to avoid prosecution yourself?" "No," Clayton said firmly. I already signed a waiver of immunity. I came here to tell the truth, not dodge it. The attorney arched an eyebrow. So if this court were to arrest you tomorrow, you'd accept that? Clayton nodded. Yes. And what do you hope to gain? He looked toward Aisha. Redemption. Outside, the street was lined with crowds. Protesters waved banners. Reporters yelled questions. Police officers stood in a perimeter 3 blocks wide. But down the alley beside the courthouse, a different scene was playing out. 2 men stood in shadows, watching. One wore the faded denim and leather of the Iron Sons. The other was in civilian clothes, but the badge on his hip glinted briefly when he adjusted his jacket. You sure this is the place? The biker asked. The officer nodded. That van over there, blacked out windows. That's her ride. She testifies next. Tomorrow, but she'll leave in an hour. That's our window. The biker checked his weapon. Let's make it count. Back in the courthouse, the prosecutor turned to the judge. No further questions, Your Honor. Judge Levin nodded. Mr. Reeves, you may step down. Clayton nodded, turned, walked slowly down the steps of the witness stand. The entire courtroom stood, not ordered, just instinctively. Aisha didn't move, but when Clayton passed by her row, she whispered just loud enough. Your voice was heard. He blinked, and for the first time in years, he smiled. An hour later, Aisha left the building, escorted by 2 agents. The air was thick with noise, crowds pushing, reporters yelling, helicopters above. But Aisha moved through it like stone in a river, untouched. She reached the vehicle, doors opened, climbed in. The engine started, then froze. Malik's voice buzzed in her earpiece. Abort route. We've got untagged heat signatures at the southern exit. Stay put. The driver locked the doors. Aisha adjusted her cuffs. I told them this wasn't over, she murmured. From the corner of the garage, one of the Iron Sons emerged, gun drawn. But before he could raise it, crack. A single suppressed shot rang out. He dropped. The second man tried to flee, didn't make it past the stairwell before agents tackled him down, face to pavement. Inside the vehicle, Aisha didn't flinch. Malik's voice returned. Threat neutralized. Aisha finally exhaled, then looked out the window toward the crowds. They're getting desperate. Which means, Malik said, they're getting close to collapse. She nodded. Good. That night, the footage of Clayton's testimony, aired in full, unedited, uncut, unforgettable. Millions watched. Some cried, some marched, some called their parents just to say, "Did you see?" And in a tiny home in Phoenix, Nia Cole, now 22, sat on her couch, staring at the screen. Tears slid down her cheek and she whispered, "Thank you." The collapse wasn't loud, it was quiet, precise, tactical. Aisha had always known this wouldn't end with applause or fireworks or history books. Real justice didn't scream. It spread, like ink through paper, like cracks through concrete. By 9 a.m., the resignations began. Dayton, Ohio, 4 officers stepped down citing health concerns. Atlanta, a judge filed early retirement. Sacramento, 2 state auditors disappeared from the registry overnight. Louisiana, the deputy commissioner of public safety left behind a 1-line note. I knew. I stayed quiet. I resign. It spread. Fast. Faster than even Aisha anticipated, because the world had seen the footage. They had read the documents. They knew the names. And now, silence was guilt. Inside the bunker, Malik paced in front of the operations screen as lines of live data scrolled. Down, 74 resignations in 12 hours, he said. 16 forced firings, 31 federal summons issued. Gideon leaned back. You realize you just dismantled the framework of 5 different states, right? Aisha stood still, arms crossed. No, she said. We just told the truth. The structure fell because it was hollow. Malik looked up from his tablet. There's still one left. Grizz. The last domino. Back at the Iron Sun's compound, it no longer looked like a fortress. It looked like a prison. Half the members were gone. The rest were armed, paranoid, twitchy. JD had fled 2 nights ago, left a burner phone and a note that just said, "I'm not dying for this." Grizz sat alone at the long wooden table, the club's old banner folded beside him. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but rage. "They took everything," he muttered. "Everything we built." He slammed a bottle of whiskey against the wall. Glass rained down. No one even flinched. "We go out strong," he growled. "Not hiding, not begging, not running." Tucker, the last loyal member still standing by, him shifted uneasily. "What are you thinking?" Grizz's eyes gleamed. "She's got a press conference tomorrow. Public space, big crowd, open air." Tucker blinked. "That's federal territory." "So was the gas station," Grizz replied. He stood, strapped on his vest, and grabbed a shotgun from the rack. "If we're going down, we're taking the heart with us." Across the city, Aisha reviewed the security plan for the upcoming Justice Summit. She was scheduled to speak to a crowd of over 10,000, law students, public servants, activists, and citizens. A full-circle moment. "This will be your first appearance since the files dropped," Malik said. "You sure you want to be that? Visible?" "Yes," she replied. "It's a soft target," he warned. Aisha didn't blink. "That's why it matters. We stand in the open to prove they've lost their shadows." Gideon entered the room with a new report. Surveillance picked up chatter. "Grizz is planning something. We don't have a location yet, but timing aligns." Aisha simply said, "Let them come." Malik frowned. "That's not a strategy. It's a promise," she said. "They'll walk into the light and burn." That night, in a grimy motel off Route 19, Grizz cleaned his weapons in silence. The TV buzzed behind him with static. Every channel ran Aisha's name, every photo, every story, every interview, hers. She had erased them. No point worse, she had revealed what they always were. Small, afraid. His finger hovered over the trigger of his custom-built rifle. He imagined the crowd. He imagined her face. And then he imagined the silence. Not the applause, the silence after, the final kind. And he smiled. The morning of the summit was clear. Blue skies, a slight breeze. The city square was surrounded by law enforcement, drones, private security, and agents in plainclothes. Still the crowd came, a sea of people, signs, fists, cameras, voices. Aisha stood behind the stage curtain, adjusting the cuffs of her coat. "You ready?" Malik asked. She nodded, then stepped into the light. The roar was deafening, but above it, in a nearby clock tower, someone was watching through a scope. "Grizz." He steadied the rifle, breathed in, breathed out. Then, click. Nothing. The chamber didn't fire. He checked it, empty. Another click, still nothing. Then he heard it. "Step away from the window." A voice behind him. He turned and froze. Clayton Reeves. Wearing a vest, holding a weapon. "Calm. You're not doing this," Clayton said. Grizz's mouth twisted. "You betrayed everything." "No," Clayton said. "I'm finally protecting something." Agents swarmed in behind him. Grizz didn't fight, didn't speak. He just sat down and wept. On stage, Aisha spoke. "Justice doesn't come when the guilty fall. It comes when the innocent rise." The crowd erupted, and somewhere in the back row, Nia Cole stood in silence, her hand over her heart. That night, headlines blazed. Iron Sons, leader captured. Aisha Monroe closes the door on America's darkest network. Truth won today. And across the country, millions slept with the knowledge that silence was broken, and truth had taken its place. 1 week later, the noise had begun to fade. The crowds were smaller, the headlines had shifted, and the world, as it always did, kept moving forward. But something had changed, not in volume but in depth. Laws were being rewritten. Task forces launched. Cities, for the first time in decades, were reviewing entire systems from the ground up, because of a woman who never asked to be a leader. and never acted like one. The Justice Summit ended with a standing ovation, but Aisha was already gone before the applause had finished. She didn't linger for photographs. She didn't attend the galas. She didn't take the calls from the White House. Instead, she stood alone in a quiet cemetery on the edge of D.C., staring at a modest grave. No marble, no flowers, just a small stone that read, "Amari Monroe, the voice before me, her sister, the one who marched before hashtags existed, the one who was jailed, beaten, and erased from every history book, the one whose voice had been buried," until Aisha spoke. "I did it, Mari," she whispered. "Not for them, for you." The wind carried her words like prayer, and for a moment the world was still. Back in the city, Malik met with DOJ officials to review implementation plans for the new oversight boards. Monroe refused the director position, one of them asked. Malik nodded. Said she had no interest in running a system she just dismantled. So what now? Malik smiled faintly. She left instructions. He handed over a sealed envelope. The label read, "In case of reform." Inside was a 12-page blueprint, policy, oversight, community councils, rotating civilian watchdog panels, all written in Aisha's precise hand. No ego, no title, just structure, real, practical change. Clayton Reeves, now under federal protection, gave his second testimony, this time before Congress. He didn't cry, he didn't beg for forgiveness, he just told the truth. And at the end, a senator asked, "If you had the chance to go back, would you still testify?" Clayton looked at the packed chamber, then toward the camera. "Yes," he said, "because silence is what allowed them to grow." Across the nation, police academies began new ethics modules based on Aisha's methods. 3 judges were removed for prior corruption. 1 governor resigned, and on Capitol Hill, a new bill passed the Senate with rare bipartisan support. The Monroe Act, a sweeping accountability framework for hate-based group surveillance and judicial transparency. But Aisha wasn't there for the signing. She was walking along the Potomac in an old wool coat. No security, no fanfare, no recognition, just peace. Gideon met her on a bench near the water. "They're calling it the Monroe Doctrine," he said. She laughed. "I just showed them the rot." "No," he said, "you gave people a map." She looked out at the water. "They'll come back," she said. "Not Grizz, not the Suns, but something else. It always does." "Then what?" he asked. Aisha's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Then someone else picks up the light. That's how it works." Later that night, she returned to her home, now a historical landmark unofficially. There was no mail, no press, just a letter tucked into her front gate. From Nia Cole. It read, "You gave me back my voice, so I gave it to others. I'm starting at Howard this fall. Criminal justice. I'm going to be someone people fear for the right reasons. Thank you." Aisha folded the note slowly and smiled. The next morning, she vanished. No press release, no farewell, no trace. Just 1 post scheduled. In advance, uploaded to a secure social account, black text on white screen. "I was never the story. You were." Aisha in homes, schools, courts and stations, her words lived on. In classrooms, young black girls raised their hands higher. In courtrooms, old systems shook. In marches, voices rang louder, and across it all, in whispers, posters and hearts, one name remained, not as a hero, but as proof that when one voice stands, others rise.